A Napa guy knows the good thing about an old truck is you can treat it like an old truck, meaning however you want. Because the paint job looks best covered in mud. Dents build character, and unpaved roads are unscientifically proven to be 70% more fun. And with over 400,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep that thing running longer, stronger. Because it's not old, it's broken in. That's Napa know-how.
Blog Talk Radio.
We are the UR Tennis Network. Our mission is to be the voice of tennis. We enlist a team of passionate enthusiasts to promote our sport. We strive to bring interesting perspectives on the many spins of tennis. Our goal is to provide the learners of our sport with current news and information from many angles. We seek active participation from communities interested in tennis, but tennis is not interested in them. We are expanding our outreach. Tennis is a true lifetime sport that needs to be talked about, and the UR Tennis Network pledges to pursue this idea relentlessly.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Parenting Aces radio show on Blog Talk Radio's UR Tennis Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and I'm so excited to have Ryan Segelke on the line today. He and the High Altitude Tennis team are coming at us live from Uganda. I'm going to jump right in because it's late at night there. Well, not that late at night. Ryan, are you there? Hey.
I am here. Hi.
Thank you so much. So what time is it there?
Well, it's 9 p.m. and actually we just got out of Uganda had a very big soccer match today. So they're actually finishing up right now as I speak this. We were at the stadium. I ran to the car. It's at Namboli Stadium, and we just ran out to the car to speak with you.
Oh, I feel very privileged, and I'm sorry you're having to miss the end of the game.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Just so my listeners know, we do have a slight delay. Ryan's coming at us from across the world, so please be patient, and Ryan and I are going to try and not talk over each other with this delay. So, Ryan, why don't you fill us in on what you and the High Altitude Tennis team, the High Altitude Tennis Fund, are doing in Uganda? What brought y'all there?
Sure. So we, with the Have Fun, the Have Fun's mission is to give the opportunity to play tennis and learn these, very valuable life skills through sports. And we started doing that in Colorado. And during the time we were doing it in Colorado, we got contacted by a friend of mine, John Purnell, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I've got a kid from Uganda that needs your help. And can we send him your way?" And we said, "Les," and I said, "Of course." And so they sent him our way. He was a phenomenal kid, just had a tremendous impact on myself and the community it had. And we couldn't think more of him as an individual. And so we cared so much that we wanted to reach out and come visit him and his family and friends here and see if there's a way we're serving underprivileged youth in Colorado. Maybe this is another way that we can do that. We can help underprivileged kids from here. And I have to say, so far it's been 2 days, but it's been nonstop since we got here, and extremely impactful. So yeah, we're very happy to be here and representing Colorado and representing the U.S. and representing High Altitude Tennis and Have Fun too. So.
I love the pictures that you're posting on Facebook, and everybody just looks so joyful in every photograph. Is that the vibe that you're just picking up on everywhere you go?
It's an amazing experience. It's funny that you bring that up. And please do, if you have a chance, it is fun to watch what we're doing. I would love to have you follow us and see people that are here are amazing. It'll give you a chance and an insight on the way they are. And the joke here is that, they have steel faces from Uganda. They'll come up to you and they're staring at you with steel faces, and then you smile and you wave at them, and then they pop up and they smile. And they wave back at you, and they're your friends. And that's the culture here. They're very welcoming, very open. And, it's been a lot of fun. We've been welcome since the first moment we stepped off the plane here.
Who is there from HAT? I know you and your wife are both there. Is there anybody else from your team that's there?
Yeah, so John Lataya is the student that's here that we're visiting, and he'll actually get into college. And he has 4 schools that he's looking for, so we helped him get his SAT score up to a level when he's with us in Colorado, to a level where now he can get into college. He's got 4 offers on the table. We just have to look to accept one. And then so from our team, it's myself, who I run House 2 Tennis Academy, my wife, who runs a nonprofit, and then Kat Hutchinson, who is one of our outstanding pros that works with us.
Fantastic. And so besides visiting John, obviously, and getting a chance to meet his family, what else are you hoping to accomplish on this trip? I guess, let me back up a minute. Tell us how long you're there for, and, did you have specific goals in mind when you planned this trip, or have things just kind of unfolded, along the process?
Yeah, great question. So we got asked to come out, number one. So to answer your first question, is we're here for 8 days total, so 2 days of travel and 8 days total. And we got asked, the main reason that we're coming out is we got asked to teach a coach's clinic with the UCTF. So we're going to do that tomorrow and the Uganda Tennis Federation. And so we're going to teach a coach's clinic tomorrow, Wednesday. Thursday, they're going to get certified in what we teach at House 2 Tennis that we've had a lot of success with. And then from there, we have a couple opportunities. So we've met already with the Davis Cup captain from here. And really, to answer your question, Lisa, it's that we're really listening to what their needs are, because here, tennis is at a point where it's just about to take off again. So it's kind of fallen off, and it's struggled for a while. Courts have kind of been down. And there's places like the UCTF and Jazz Kareem, who's here, who runs the UCTF, we're spending a lot of time with. They're really doing their job to really build tennis back up. So it's really at step 1, phase 1. So we're really listening to what their needs are and where can we fill those gaps. And so we're listening to the Davis Cup coach. We met with him. We spent the last day and a half with UCTF, which I'd love to tell you about more about that, and Jazz Kareem for the last day and a half. We'll meet one of the president's advisors tomorrow. His name is John Uganda. And we'll talk to him about what he feels, Uganda needs, and see where we can be a good fit for that. We'll also work with a place called Tina Academy, and they have about 30 kids that we'll run some clinics for later in the week as well. And then we'll bring also the Tina kids a bunch of donations, so we're going to bring them stuff from Wilson. Wilson has partnered with us as well. We'll bring them rackets and balls and shoes for these 30 kids and strings, so which they need, which I don't think we're used to that in the U.S., but they need tennis balls, simple things like that.
Interesting. And so, as an American, we see players on the pro circuit from South Africa a lot. Every now and then we see somebody from Zimbabwe, but that's kind of it on the African continent. I mean, Uganda is not a place that I would necessarily identify with the sport of tennis. How did y'all get connected? I mean, I know you said, you had this coach send you this kid, but, how did he even get started in the sport?
Yeah, how did John get started in the sport? Is that your question, Lisa? I'm sorry.
Yes, because, like I said, we don't think of Uganda as being, a powerhouse for tennis.
I have to say that the athletes here are ridiculously talented. They just don't have the fundamental base to really get to the next level. And they do have some good players. They've had some players that reached in talking to the Davis Cup captain, and he also runs one of the major organizations out here. His name is Cedric Drill. We talked with him, and, they've got some players, including himself, who played at University of Florida, and some players who made it to about top 600 in the world, top 500 in the world. But John specifically was a player who's on path to go to college, but he didn't have those opportunities at the time we met him. And he got started through the ITF actually coming through here and identifying him and then giving him a few opportunities, which that kind of got dropped and led to another opportunity, kind of got dropped, and then that's where we found him here. So it was more popular back in the day. And then lately it's kind of come back. There aren't as many tournaments here, to be specific, and so the kids aren't as excited about playing it, so they start to move towards cricket. So a lot of kids that we're seeing who used to be in tennis are now kind of naturally taking their skills over to cricket. And what UCTF is doing so well is really trying to turn that back to tennis, and I think he's done a great job with it.
And So talk a little bit more about UCTF and your meetings with them and what you hope to bring to the table for them and what you're expecting to learn from them to bring back to the States.
Yeah, first what we're learning from them is they started in 2001, where Jazz is originally from, and he's got a very interesting story, actually. He actually is the squash coach at Queens Club, and he grew up here for 15 years in just outside of Kampala. And his family was extradited, so they got kicked out of the country when he was 15. They were very successful families. Dad was very successful, and they lost everything and got kicked out of the country. So it was difficult for him to come back. But he came back. He eventually came back in 2001, made connections with the tennis player that was here who eventually died recently after that. He supported him. He ended up dying shortly after he had gotten close to him and really made an impact on Jazz. So we said, you know what, I really want to go back to my home country and start a foundation that gets kids off the streets and into sports and school. So he helps them get into school and sports too, and those just work hand in hand. And that's I'm very impressed with the way we visited 2 schools yesterday that he's impacted. So they've got about, I think they said 80 or 90 kids that they've scholarship into schools here, into boarding schools. And these kids are doing phenomenal. And we're not just talking, kids struggling. These are kids that are street kids that their parents have died. There's a large HIV problem here. And so a lot of parents have died off, and their kids are left alone. Their kids are 7, 8, 9 years old. We've actually visited them last night. Which is amazing, so I'd love to tell you more about that. But scholarshipping these kids into schools, we visited the kids, and they're doing phenomenal. And what that showed me was, I think what I've learned most from them that I can bring back to the States is that character is transcendent. If you teach character, you have standards for what you're doing, the kids that you're working with will be successful. And if you don't, then that's what that is.
So, yeah, definitely tell us more about your visits. I want to hear that.
Yeah, last night was something else. I mean, after visiting the schools, that was very touching to see a kid go from not having parents to living on the street for months on end, getting a scholarship to go to school. And you can, as coaches, we look in kids' eyes, and we look for that look where they go, I'm in, I'm going for this. And we don't see it all the time, but when we see it, it's very recognizable. And this kid that was there in particular I'm talking about is at a boarding school, and you can tell he's going to succeed. And what was very impactful for me was to actually go and see after that where he came from. So we went and visited, and there'll be some pictures up tomorrow about some of the street kids we saw. We saw about, I'd say, 30 or 40 imagine 30 or 40 kids on the street as young as 7 years old, sleeping on the streets, and they're getting high off glue because their lives are so tough. Parents have died. They're by themselves. Their family is this group of kids. And we went out, and it was just, it'll make you bawl your eyes out. You need tissues after you're watching these kids, 7-year-olds sleeping on the street. One of the kids, and the best part is, a very positive part is they were on the street. The next morning, 4 kids showed up to the UCTF headquarters, which is where we were by, and they wanted to get scholarships to school, and that's what he was looking for. And one of the kids had gotten kicked in the head as I was very pussy, because I was, hurting, but they were asking for help. I want to get into school, and that's a very positive sign, but it's also very disheartening to see kids on the street by themselves as young as 7 years old. And what we did last night was actually we brought them some bread, and it's an amazing sight. I don't have a lot of words for it. It's a very amazing sight, and not in a good way.
What's mind-boggling to me is that, besides the extraordinary circumstances these children are living in, is that they find it within themselves to try to make their lives better, even, like you're saying, as young as 7, 8, 9 years old, that they know that education is the key for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I was most impressed with it. I think sports and tennis combined are such a powerful thing, and to see the kids getting an education, and that's what the goal is too, is to try to help them get to high school, and then like we're doing for John, we'll get him into colleges, and then he comes back, he has an education, he can get a great job and get back to Kampala, get back to Uganda. It's a very powerful thing.
Can you talk about the impact that John had on the American kids that you work with at HAC?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, John worked very hard. He was very coachable, very smart too. I mean, listened, paid attention, applied, was really taking everything. And they had mentioned too when he had come back from Kampala that he had changed, and that was very great for us to hear that the character stuff we're teaching the kids there is transcending across, and they're seeing it here as well. And it actually matches up what they're doing very well as well. But as far as our kids getting to see that, I mean, John had mentioned something. We had an event for him where we were raising money for his college. And please go to, if you have a chance of hearing this, please go to the Facebook page or the hatfund.org and donate to John's cause. It's a really worthwhile thing. I can't say enough about it. But he had mentioned during that event how, he was lucky to get one meal a day here in Uganda. And I think that kind of flew everybody's head. So I kind of took a step back and said, did we notice that? And everybody, it's a powerful thing when you only get one meal a day. And for kids to see that who are, Kin kids who, like my kids, myself, are well-to-do, right? They don't need for much. And to see a kid come in and work for everything and be respectful and do all the things required that you need to be successful, I think is very important for our kids to see, and it had a tremendous impact. And he spent a lot of time with our students. And I have to thank our family at HAT for welcoming him into their house. And, every weekend he was with another family. So I think we've created such a community that I'm very proud of.
What did the HAT kids have to say about their time with John? I mean, surely you've overheard them talking amongst themselves, or hopefully they've told you the impact it's had on them. I would love to just hear in their words what this did for them. Sure.
John's very quiet, so I think they kind of maybe gave them some humility. But in their words, I think it was more of in between practices, in between matches, to be able to listen to John and where it comes from was tremendously impactful from what they told me. And also the fact that he sings reggae made them laugh. He likes to sing reggae, so you never expected out of a kid like this who's a 18 years old now, and he breaks out into a reggae song. You would never expect that out of this quietest kid, and I think that brings a little bit of humor and humility to the situation too. So that's what we heard from the kids.
That's great. And so you're there, you've met his family. What did they think about this young man making plans to come to the States, to play tennis, to attend college? I mean, I would have to think that given the political circumstances in Uganda and the economic circumstances there, this isn't a common everyday occurrence that a kid gets an opportunity like this.
Yeah, we went and visited John and his family. I didn't mention that yet, but the first day, it's been a very impactful 2 days. We spent time with John and his family, and there's a picture of that on the Facebook page as well, where we're there with his grandma and about 20 to 30 of his family. And they're all very, very proud of him and excited about where he's going and the opportunities he's getting. And I have to say, my friend also here who's here with us from UCTF, Henry, had mentioned that, every student who goes off to get a college scholarship ends up paying for 8 of their siblings and then inspiring many more. I think that's a very powerful statement of the way things are here and how big of an impact even one person can make.
So say that one more time, because that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I apologize for the noise. And we're here again. We're literally at the stadium, sitting in the parking lot after I think they tied. They were supposed to win to get an Africa's Cup, but they tied. So everybody's here still excited, but a little bit of a lull that everybody's driving out of the parking lot. But for every 8 kids, for every 1 kid, that gets a college scholarship, comes back, gets a great job, he supports 8 of his family members here. I think that's a very, very powerful statistic that my friend Henry from the UCTF was able to share with us, and impact so many more kids and family members too to do the same thing. So I think we're very proud of John.
It's as I'm listening to you talk about John and the other kids that you're coming in contact with and these organizations that are hard at work to open doors for these young people in their country, we hear constantly, and maybe the chatter's died down a little bit, but that Americans are soft, our kids are soft, and that's why they can't compete in the global arena. And, especially in terms of tennis and college tennis, and that's why, our kids aren't in the top 10 anymore in the world, and yada, yada, yada. What are your thoughts on that now that you're seeing what life is like for John and his peers in Uganda?
If I can ask you questions, what do you think that's true, number one? You've been around tennis a lot with your son and his successes. Do you think that's true?
I don't think it's true, but I think it's a common kind of, and I'm using air quotes, but a common excuse. Whoop, you there?
Yeah, sorry. You're going to hear horns in the background. Yeah. They tied. They're still very excited. I love the pride for it. I apologize for that.
No worries.
I thought that would be entertaining to bring that atmosphere to it.
Well, it certainly keeps our conversation from being boring, for sure. No, I don't buy into that statement. I mean, I think our kids work hard, but I definitely see a difference between a kid who is living on the streets because he's lost his parents at 7 to AIDS, and is having to figure out how many times that week he might be able to have something to eat, versus kids like yours and mine who are living in comfortable surroundings and never having to worry about anything other than working hard in school and on the tennis court. So, I don't know. I feel like there's so much value to be had in travel, and I wonder, this is kind of an adjunct question, but do you think there will come a time where you'll bring a group of the Hat kids to Kampala to see these circumstances for themselves and really truly understand the difference?
Yeah, and to answer your first question, I think is a really important one. I think it's a very general statement too, to really blanket statement to say that U.S. kids are lazy, they just don't have the work ethic. But I have to say that being here in Kampala and seeing kids that, like you said, that don't have these opportunities, I definitely think that they fight harder than our kids do to get to another level, generally speaking. And I think that's important to keep that general, because there are definitely kids who get it. And that's where I'd say the character transcends all of that. So if you have parents and in school and all that, that will transcend any of that. That's one thing I've learned from being here, is that through the schools, through what they're doing at UCTF, through what they're doing at the TINA Academy, who we're doing clinics with later in the week, in meeting with them in the last 2 days, that lots of meetings, I apologize for the noise, they're very excited, is that character transcends it all. If you can teach kids character, hold them accountable, all those simple life lessons. I'll give Jazz credit, who's now next to me here after coming out of the stadium, is, he said, they asked me as the head squash coach at Queens Club to, come up with a list of items that really made my program successful. He's one of the most successful coaches that I've heard of in squash. He's very successful. And he said, I can't. It's all very simple. It'd be very boring. So I think that's, to answer your question about being soft, I think that's my input there. I hope that got there. And the second part of if we're going to bring kids to come. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go. Keep going.
I was going to say, as far as bringing kids, I think absolutely we want to bring more kids from Kampala to the U.S. and definitely bring some of our kids out to Kampala to spend time here. Again, I think that character transcends, and seeing different environments where that only kind of makes that stronger, makes that more concrete.
So you're working very hard, obviously, with John and this started a year ago, to help him basically use tennis to create a better life for himself and for his family back there. There are those that would look at what you're doing and say, well, wait a minute, that's taking opportunities away from our American kids. How can you do that? What's your answer to that?
I think that's a great question. I think let's put it this way. John, let's use John as the example. He's the example we're talking about. Out in Uganda, everybody we've met with is kind of at odds with themselves. They're very competitive. They look for things poorly in each other, and they're very competitive at this point where tennis is at. It hasn't been going great, and they're starting to turn it around, and everybody's fighting. And John's point to me, he told me today, was we were driving back from Jinja in Mbara, and what he brought up was that, listen, I had you meet with all these people because I think we can bring everybody together. So I think that if you're looking at it that way, it's very exclusive. I think we have to be more inclusive. And I think to give anybody an opportunity who deserves it is probably the right thing.
And what is John hoping to do once he does get to school in the U.S.? Has he talked about what his plans are in terms of his course of study, in terms of his tennis, and then post-college, what his plans are? I mean, I know he hasn't even started yet, so that may be a bunch of premature questions.
So he did. We talked about that today, and going to the schools and talking to the kids there, and then asking John, where do you want to take this to? It's I think, a great question. And he said, I really want to get into communications, and then I want to learn finances, and he has this, just like any kid going to college, much like yours, I imagine, Lisa, too, is they're very general to start, and we'll see where that ends up. So the goal is to get him in there, and he has the character that he'll finish all 4 years where he's going. I can't say I'm always, you want to say for sure on anything, but I'm nearly positive that he's going to finish all 4 years with the character that he has, and he'll come out of it a man ready to come back to Kampala and get a great job. And I know that the job market here is very tough. There's lots of young kids in the market here. And what advantage he'll have is that he'll have an American degree coming back to Kampala, which is what business owners look for here. And through that, again, like Henry said from the UCTF, he said, every one of is able to support 8 of their family members. I think that's very powerful. Sorry for the noise.
Absolutely. No, you're good. So his goal in terms of the tennis is to open the door for his education.
Sorry, somebody fell asleep. I think their head is on the horn. Okay, now it's we're good. Say that again, Lisa. I'm sorry.
So John's goal with the tennis was to open the door to get him into a good school. He's not aspiring to play professionally after college. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, definitely not. I think tennis is his opportunity to get into college, get a degree, and come back and get to his community, which I think is a very powerful thing.
And, this is an important point, and I don't think it's something that gets talked about enough in terms of the progression of junior tennis and where it can lead. But, we talk about the small percentage of players that are successful as professionals. But I think the focus, if we can shift the conversation somewhat and look at the doors that can be opened by tennis for a future in business and commerce and the law and medicine. I mean, the opportunities are endless. And for a lot of kids, my son among them, tennis opened a door for him to get into a university that he would not otherwise have been accepted to. And so I think that's an important part of the conversation. And you as a coach, Ryan, you have the opportunity to have that conversation with parents and kids all the time. I would like to see that conversation happen more often, I think.
No, I couldn't agree more. We were talking about that at dinner tonight, too. Henry, he was ranked, a world-ranked tennis player himself. And he said, without tennis, I wouldn't have the opportunities that I have today. And I said myself right after, without tennis, I wouldn't be sitting here in Uganda with you today. So I think tennis is tremendous, certainly opened up tremendous doors for myself. I know Henry had mentioned that for himself, and I think that, anybody that I've talked to that's in tennis here has actually mentioned that as well, too. So it's very powerful that what sports can do to your life when you commit to it, and it matches up at home, too. I think that's an important point, too, is that with the character standards match up at home, and they're in sports as well with the coaches you have a really great quality coach. I think that the students are in great shape.
For sure. So can you share with us what the rest of your visit to Uganda looks like? You've got 6 more days, I think, if I'm doing my math correctly. What's on your calendar? What are you hoping to come away with at the end of this trip? And what's your plane ride home going to look like?
Good question. So 26 hours on the way here. It's 26 hours on the way back. So I'm not looking forward to that, but what I am looking forward to is that we have tomorrow, which is Wednesday here, and Thursday we have a coaches training where we'll train some coaches in, again, what we use in high-altitude tennis that we've had a lot of success with, and we'll share that with our coaches. We have a plan with what we do there. We just decline the fact that in the tennis industry the coaches are going out there without a plan. We think that we need to do better than that, and so we have. And we've developed this great program. We've documented it, and we're going to share that with them. The first level of our system, we're going to certify the coaches on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and Thursday. And then Friday we'll have a Tina clinic. So we'll meet with 30 kids, and that's where we're going to donate a bunch of stuff. We've got a bunch of balls and rackets and shoes and string we're going to give with them, and then do a fun clinic for them. And then we'll also meet with, like we talked about, the president's advisor, John Uganda, and we'll talk with him about tennis and where he sees it at, and again, where we can. This is a feeler trip. We're really seeing where we can help and where things match up. And so they were joking with us that, we really should have planned 2 weeks for this. We really planned 2 weeks of stuff within, 6 days. So we're tired, but I think, after seeing last night and kids being on the street, I think we're okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Excited.
And so let's talk about this meeting with the president's advisor, because I just find this fascinating that political leaders are interested in meeting with an American tennis coach. I find that amazing, awesome, but fascinating. How did that come to be, and, what are you expecting from that meeting?
It's funny. You come to Uganda and you have an organization in the U.S. you're looking to help. They're coming out with open arms, and I can't say that we've had that same success in the U.S., which we would like. We would like it to be more inclusive in the U.S. with the USTA. And we've received basically zero help from the USTA up to this point. And we'd love it to be more inclusive. We're not asking for anything from them, but I like the inclusive idea that they're doing here. So we come here. We're meeting with the Davis Cup coach. We're meeting with UCTF. Everybody's coming with open arms, and we're meeting very good people. And again, with John again, it's to hear him out. It was really not a trip we're going to come and say, hey, here's exactly what we should do. It's really listening to their needs. I think that's the most impactful thing you can do is really listen to people. That's what we do for our students, too, and how tennis is. Where are their needs, and how does it match up with what how we can help them. And that's where we come at it. So that's really what we're doing for this trip. And whoever we're meeting is listening to their needs. Does it match up with what we can do very well? And then really matching that together to do something powerful in the next trip, the next 2 trips, the next 3 trips, the next couple of years, next decade, and so on.
So there is a long-term plan for this relationship between HAT and the Ugandan Tennis Federation.
We'll see. I don't know that. I definitely can't say that. And that's what we'll decide when we get home. I think there's definitely a stake in John and the impact he's had on us, and then also bringing that back to, Colorado and really giving more kids the opportunity who don't have it, to get into maybe a private school in the U.S. and to get into college and taking them off the streets and into a sport in that way. And I think there's definitely that's in the future.
That's awesome. Let's touch on the Davis Cup piece of this, because, I didn't even know Uganda had a Davis Cup team, so it shows you how uneducated I am in that regard. But what does Davis Cup mean to a place like this, and what is their interest, again, in talking to an American tennis coach? And, what do you bring to the table, and what do you get to take back from your experience meeting with them?
It's a good question. And, what they would get from us is, in listening, so they're talking about Davis Cup, and I don't think it's necessarily on that level, right? So it's not a Davis Cup level. It's not an ITF Pro Tournament level. I think it's really back to square one. Here's what it sounds like to me. And where we can provide and what they've articulated is they need help with learning the fundamentals of the game, really having a documented method that they can teach more coaches, even in the schools, right? You have a local high school coach who doesn't know much about tennis, and to be able to teach them how to teach their kids in school during their high school matches, I think is very helpful. But really that grassroots level, starting from building a base and building up back up to that ITF level and Davis Cup level, I think is really where it's at. That's where we can help.
So, right. So I guess I didn't know this about Davis Cup. Davis Cup isn't only the teams we're seeing compete on the Tennis Channel for that big trophy at the end of the year. There's more to it than that.
Say that again. I'm sorry, it broke up.
No problem. Davis Cup isn't just about the big teams that we see competing for that big trophy on the Tennis Channel. There's more to Davis Cup than simply that level of competition. It sounds like there are grassroots efforts involved in Davis Cup, and I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that's 100% the case. I think that, but they do see the collective effort of that there needs to be a grassroots level where it's built up through the local level, through organizations, like the UCTF and so on, where they're starting to get tournaments. There's not really many tournaments going on here right now, again, which is what kind of pushes kids towards cricket. And what will get them back is building up a tournament structure here, but also making sure when the kids play those tournaments to take a step back from that, just to have a fundamental base. And that's what I've heard over and over again, which I don't hear a lot in the U.S. is, our kids need to learn fundamentals, no matter what level they're at. And they're really asking for that here, which is why it's a great, great fit. And they understand that no matter if you become an ATP pro or you're a beginner, you need to keep learning fundamentals to be very good at this game, which the top pros, as you and I know, do on a regular basis, but we don't see.
Right. Oops, you're breaking up on me now.
Oh. Still there?
Uh-oh. Okay. Yep, I'm here. Oh, the joys of technology. Yeah, we're good.
That's right.
So when you get back to the States...
and what mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No. So when I get back to the States, go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
When you get back to the States, what story are you going to be telling? I'm just curious where this is going to lead for, not just for high altitude tennis, because I get, as a business and the nonprofit arm, I get what your role is. But I'm curious about how this is impacting you, Ryan, the individual guy, the dad, the husband, the coach, and your wife, and how it's going to impact your kids and your community of friends. What is it going to do for you? What do you think is going to change in your own life after experiencing this? Because this has to be hugely impactful on you as a human being.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. First thing we're going to do is go back and take about a 24-hour nap and decompress and touch base with my team. We have a tremendous team in high altitude tennis and they have fun. And we'll touch base and see, okay, what do we learn from that? Really take a minute to start to put the plans together, to put the master plan together, the blueprint. But I can tell you in the moment right now, what I can see is that for our kids in high altitude tennis, it is continuing to instill the character that we've done all along. It is making those tough decisions for kids. It is holding them accountable. I think those things are very important. That's what I've seen here, whether it be the schools we visited or the tennis programs that are here. That is transcendent. That is going to continue, and that will only get stronger. And second is to continue to help kids who don't have the opportunity and give them an education, because an education is very powerful, and that's an education in tennis and in school. So I think that those are, in the moment, if I'm telling you, honestly, in the moment, those are the two things I would take back for the half-fun and half-altitude tennis.
I want to talk more about this whole idea of tennis and teaching character and what the coach's role is in that regard, and what the parent's role is, and how you make the distinction. Because I hear you talk about this a lot. When you've written for Parenting Aces and written for your own website and your other coaches who've written, that word character comes up a lot. And, you know, there's often kind of a foggy line for tennis coaches and parents. Whose job is it? And you know, I would put out there that it's everybody's job to help instill good character in these kids. It's your job as the coach, it's my job as the parent, and we all need to work together. But not every coach feels that, and not every tennis program focuses on character like HAT does. And, you know, it's one of the things that draws me to your program and draws me to your coaches. And I would love to hear what that stems from. What happened in your upbringing that made you realize this was so important?
I'd say you already answered the question. Is number one. It takes a community, it takes a village that's on the same page for a student to be successful, to learn those life lessons. Because if it's not connected through sport and through school and through at home, it won't work. Right? It's mixed messages, and I think especially at home, especially, you know, all of them together, it takes a village. And to be honest, every successful program that I've seen does focus on character, so that's why I'm a huge believer. We've really been pragmatic about what we're doing. We pay attention to who's doing well and who's not, and based on facts, not based on fluff. And character is a huge part of it. So the ones that are talking about that and that are actually doing it, I think that they're doing a great job. They're on the right track. We're all learning. And what was your second question, Lisa?
I don't know. Oh, what happened? What happened in your upbringing that made you realize that this is how it has to be?
It's great that you found that, and you remembered that. I have to say, I was just brought up well. I had, you know, both my parents are extremely hardworking. They set a great example for me. I was very, very fortunate to have that sort of solid base that allowed me to go out in the world and take some risk and learn how to fail. I think failure is such a tremendous part of growth for any student or any coach or anybody, I guess. But you either win or you either succeed or you learn. You don't succeed or fail. So I would say for me, it was really the example of my father, my mother, my grandparents as well, who were just tremendous pillars of society in Colorado, northern Colorado. My grandfather was a business owner in northern Colorado, and my grandfather was kind of my grandmother, was a community center or a center of influence for as well. So my family.
Interesting. So then that kind of leads me to my next question, which is when you're working then with someone like John, someone who's come from such challenging circumstances, how do you balance that background of experience with continuing to enforce the character lessons? And I guess maybe I need to be a little more specific, but what I'm thinking is someone who's come from such challenging circumstances is dealing with failure and struggle and, hunger and so many basic negatives on a daily basis. I would think that it would be very tempting to then shelter them from that negative stuff once you can get them away from it. But you found a balance somehow of continuing to let him deal with the consequences of whether it's, eating a bad meal before a match or not getting enough sleep or, whatever it is, a choice, and then having to face the natural consequences of that choice. That's got to be tough, right? With especially a child coming from those circumstances.
I think every situation is different. I think there's definitely situations where that's likely the case, where they came from a tough upbringing and maybe have had some bad examples when they're upbringing and get into some trouble, which is part of their journey, part of their path. And hopefully along that path, they learn those lessons, right? They failed and maybe kicked out of a program. And we've certainly removed students in the past as well for those same reasons, because we have a standard which is very difficult. It's the worst day ever to have to remove a student. But in our experience with John specifically, though, to speak specifically, is that, you know, in Uganda, they have a very optimistic outlook, which is part of the charm here. So if anybody has a chance to come to Uganda, please come to Uganda. The nicest people. And the most optimistic, too. That we were driving down the road the other day, and you see people walking without a job and you know, walking down the road, and they're happy, they're smiling. And we look at each other and said, are we the ones in the U.S. with the problem? We have all these, you know, material items that we look at and we are not satisfied and we think we need more, where there's somebody walking down the street that has family, that has, you know, just enough food for your family at the end of each day, and it's not about all these material things, and they're the happy ones. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be what I would say.
Well, I think it's more along the lines, my question is more along the lines of, you know, that temptation to kind of remove the obstacles once you get the child out of the challenging environment. So, you know, any child, I'm not going to just focus on John, but any child that would come from Uganda, let's say, to train with you, you know, you've gotten them out of these tough circumstances, and tough in terms of they don't have all the material things that we're used to. And so, you know, do you worry that you're going to soften them, and I'm using air quotes again, to the point where when they do go back, they don't have the tools to still manage that life that you're putting them back into? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I would just go back to character again. I think if you're able to, in the program, hold them accountable, teach them life lessons, allow them to fail, allow them to learn that failure is okay, help them get an education, right? Education is the most powerful tool they can get. And that's what, again, I think even generally speaking, what we can do the best for the kids that we have is help them, be honest with them, get them an education so that when they do get back to those situations, they can make accurate decisions. Because it's always about that line in the road, right? Which way do I go in this situation? So if they have enough experience and education, they can make a better decision most of the time. And when they don't, they can see the breakdown, they can see the problem, and fix it and learn from it.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing this amazing thing, this amazing work there. Is there hope that your work is going to spread to other coaches, other academies here in the States? You know, are you going to take this experience and present it at coaches' conferences in hopes of recruiting other people to get involved like you're getting involved? What's your goal in terms of the tennis community here in the States?
Yeah, I'd say first that we're very small. I mean, we're really just a small organization in Colorado trying to do our thing, and we certainly are inclusive, and anybody that wants to get involved with it, we're with open arms, I think, absolutely. But I'm not so much concerned about anybody else as far as that's concerned. You know, if they want to be part of what we're doing, they're invited and welcomed and with open arms. But we're really just applying focus to what we're doing and how we can make it the best impact that we can while we have our time in this world, you know, whether that be in tennis or not. So, yeah.
Gotcha. So if people listening to the show want to get involved with your work, what's the best way for them to find out more?
Yeah, if you want to, I mean, the best way you can go to is thehatfund.org is a great place to go to find out more about us. And you can donate directly to John's cause. You can see what we're doing. You can follow us on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook. We're updating that regularly. And we want you to experience what we're doing here. We want you to see what we're seeing. So we're really trying to document really these very powerful experiences. And I have to say they are powerful. So please come along with us on the journey, and we invite you to come along with us on the journey. So thehatfund.org and Facebook for How to Tennis and The Hat Fund.
Fantastic. Well, I know it's getting late there. Is the game still going on, or did somebody finally win?
It was a tie. Unfortunately, it was a tie. So everybody's a little bit let down, although we didn't. Uganda didn't lose.
Well, there's that. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being with us, and I'm just enamored of the work that you're doing, and a little bit jealous, I have to say, of the experiences that you're having there, and I'm just so grateful that you're willing to share it with all of us here, through the show, but also through your photos that you're posting online, and I hope I get an opportunity to meet you live in person one day, and that I get the opportunity to meet John live in person one day.
Well, I think we can hit that with two birds in one stone, right? Why don't you just come on the next trip that we go out? We'll let you know when that is. And the second part is I just want to thank you for all that you're doing for the game of tennis for parents and for students out there. I think that you're really trying to get to the root of things that are happening and provide real information for people. And I think that's, in today's world, I think that's very powerful. And please, you're doing a great job. And thank you so much for having us on.
Well, thank you. And I have to publicly thank you again for my awesome pink toolkit that you sent me. You mentioned earlier in the show today that you listen and you listen for needs. And obviously, one of our earlier conversations, I mentioned that I was moving, and you picked up on that, and you sent me the perfect gift. So I want to thank you. I love my pink tools.
First of all, stop that, because anybody listening is going to call me and then hope that I'm going to send them a gift, and I can't afford that. But second, I hope that you're fixing up the house with that.
I am, and I smile every time I open the closet door and see that pink toolbox staring back at me. So thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us on.
Thanks. To my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, please, please go to highaltitudetennis.com, go to thehatfund.org, and look up High Altitude Tennis on Facebook and see for yourself the work that these guys are doing. It's incredible, and I'm so honored to get to be part of it vicariously, and I will absolutely take you up on the offer to come back with you on your next trip, Ryan, so save me a seat.
Sounds good, and I think you'll be doing it live from Uganda with me next time. That's what I think.
Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? I would love that. All right, well, get some rest. You've got a long 6 days still ahead of you, and I look forward to the photos yet to come.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Have a great week, everybody.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.